What's up, everybody, and welcome into Flippin' Bats. Game 4 of the World Series is wrapped up, and the Houston Astros have thrown the second no-hitter in the history of the World Series. This is remarkable, a historic night here in Philadelphia, where we are now, and Alex and I are going to break it all down on this episode of Flippin' Bats, presented by Perry Ellis Fragrances. What a night here in Philly.
I mean, we saw history last night with the home runs. I don't think anybody expected us to see this kind of history tonight with the Astros no-hitting the Phillies, especially with how hot their bats have been this entire series. This was also the quietest I've ever seen this stadium, but you got to hand it to the Houston Astros. We'll get into the history of the no-hitters in the World Series, but we got to dive right into the guy who started it all. Javier, an unbelievable performance, also making history, but this is your fourth guy coming out and pitching like an ace.
Well, Christian Javier has been dominant since the All-Star break, and he's not a popular name, I wouldn't say, amongst the baseball fan masses because of what you said, Alex. He's the number 4 starter.
Yeah.
In fact, he wasn't even a starter for a lot of the season this year. He was a pick guy coming in long relief because that's how deep this Astros pitching staff from top to bottom truly is. But you get your number 4 starter in the World Series throwing a no-hitter, 6 innings for him, which is a historic start because nobody in the World Series has gone even 5 innings. Nobody's gone 5 innings with 9 strikeouts and 0 hits. He did it with 6 innings, so he topped that. Just a dominant start from a guy that I felt had been underappreciated just because not many people talk about him. But he throws invisiballs, which I talked to John Smoltz. We'll hear from him in a little while. But he's so dominant because of how nasty he is, and his fastball is so hard to pick up. His slider was disgusting. We saw it here tonight. And as you mentioned, this Philly lineup that was hot ended up not getting a single hit. This is one of the greatest starts in World Series history for Christian Javier.
I would say it is the greatest because he is the first pitcher in World Series history with 9 strikeouts, no hits in 5 innings, and he ended up going 6 innings. That's crazy to wrap your head around.
It really is. And I was sitting there in the stands just thinking, is this really happening? And then it does happen, and we're walking out on the field as we usually do, and the crowd is so quiet. You almost there was just a no-hitter thrown in the World Series. And I caught up with Ryan Presley as well. We'll talk to him later, but he was on cloud 9. I mean, this was a historic night, as we know. But Christian Javier, who has continued to be underappreciated, and he did it in the ALCS. He did it against the New York Yankees in New York.
He did.
I mean, this is getting to the point where Christian Javier is the guy you want on the mound if you're the Houston Astros. How can you say no to that? He did it in New York. He did it here in Philly against a lineup that was absolutely on fire, and he got this World Series back under control for the Houston Astros.
Yeah, because of this outing, we are now going back to Houston.
Yep.
And then you got to be feeling pretty good about that. Now, you mentioned you talked to Smoltz. What did he have to say about Javier?
Yeah, so talked to John Smoltz before the game, as I'm doing every single day, and I brought up Christian Javier and what we could expect from him, and I asked John Smoltz, what is it? This is an invisiball, if you will, which I've seen many of them, but I figured John Smoltz could explain a little bit better what it is that makes Javier so dominant, because he's throwing 92, 93, topping out at 95, but it's done a little differently. And I caught up with John Smoltz, and we talked all about that. On the other side of things, Christian Javier, who I think might be one of the more underrated pitchers in baseball. Since the beginning of September, his numbers are otherworldly. He's been dominant. One word when people, I guess it might be 2 words, but when you mention Christian Javier, people say he throws like an invisible fastball. Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a gift. It really is. We hear that a lot, and it's the way that the ball comes out of his hand, they don't see it. You know, I talk about late life and then that invisible. Well, late life is when I'm playing catch with somebody and I go to catch it and the ball actually gets to me before I catch it. That's late life. Yeah. The ball has hop. The invisible has to do with spin, release point. You just don't pick it up. It's in the zone. You think you're going to hit it, and they don't. That's a gift. And you don't try to figure those gifts out. You just pitch with that. But he is very good with 2 pitches. And I think the confidence that he has, that the Astros have, look, they know, we talked about it before, deeper series favors Houston. The difference is they got to get to a deeper series now, having been down 2-1.
How cool is it that I brought it up to SMOLTZ about him throwing an invisible fastball, and he just says it's a gift, and you don't try and figure it out, you just pitch with it. And then a couple of hours later, he pitched with it in the World Series and was a part of the second no-hitter in World Series history. Really cool, I thought.
He also talked about his confidence, you know, and you got to imagine that after a performance like this, Javier is on cloud 9 with confidence through the roof, which is exactly what you need for a pitcher. Now, you mentioned this is the second no-hitter in World Series history. The last one, 1956 by Don Larson.
Oh.
That's a really long time ago.
That's a long time ago.
A long time ago.
I only barely remember that one. I tweeted this right after Javier was done, so after the 6th inning. What an outing. Christian Javier just announced his dominance to the world. He's done after 6 of the most dominant innings you'll see. And man, does that hold true? And now even more so because it's officially part of history.
It's so crazy. I mean, there have only been 19 combined no-hitters in MLB history. There's a lot of, between these two teams, there's a lot of stats around no-hitters because this is the second time this season the Phillies have been no-hit. But the Astros also are the team with the most no-hitters.
Yeah, the Astros have now thrown 4 combined no-hitters. One was earlier this year in Yankee Stadium, which Christian Javier was also the starter for that game.
That's
so it's
crazy.
getting in historic territory. You mentioned the Phillies, and obviously they're the team that got no-hit tonight.
Yeah.
No team in MLB history has been no-hit more than the Philadelphia Phillies. So history has been made here tonight. We talked a lot about on the Astros side.
Yeah.
We'll keep it to a minimal on the Phillies side, but they've been no-hit more than any other team. And it's a little surprising this year that it's happened twice when you look at how good this lineup is. I mean, we've been watching it now since the start of the NLCS. This is a very good lineup, so this just speaks volumes to the depth of the Houston Astros, which was a huge key for me coming into these playoffs, was the depth that they have over the Phillies, specifically in the rotation, being able to not have to bump up a guy like Justin and be able to use Christian Javier in that 4 spot in the rotation, so you're not having to shuffle all around, which turned out to be huge because we saw NOLA tonight, and we'll talk about him in a little while. He was great, and then it almost looked like he ran out of gas. Maybe another day, who knows? But the depth of the rotation and the bullpen showed itself tonight, and man, it was really cool to just be here and be a part of it. And
not only did you talk about the strength of the Astros starting rotation, but we've talked a lot about the strength of their bullpen, and it was a 4-man job tonight to get this combined no-hitter, which, again, it's hard to do. There's only been 19 in the history of the game, and you got to give it up to the Astros bullpen tonight. Yeah, you know, and that's one thing. You hear combined no-hitter. There have obviously been way less in Major League history than individual no-hitters, but I don't want this to take away. I don't want a combined no-hitter to take away anything. It is certainly different. Yes. Right? And if you're the starting pitcher, obviously a 9-inning no-hitter means a little different. Yeah. But a combined no-hitter is important and very impressive in its own right because you have to have everybody on their A game at the same time. It's not just one guy that's locked in, and next thing you know, he's through 9 no-hit innings and he's thrown a no-hitter. No, you've got to have every single guy that comes in tonight, 4 of them on their A game, and we saw that tonight from Christian Javier to Abreu to Montero to Ryan Presley, who came in and finished it all off. And it was really cool because I caught up with Ryan Presley immediately following the game and was able to talk to him about finishing off the history. Here with Ryan Presley. You just closed out the second no-hitter in World Series history. What are the emotions coming in the game first?
Well, honestly, I just wanted to put up a 0. You know, that's really all I was thinking about. I wasn't really thinking about the no-hitter. It's cool to have it and have a little cherry on top, but, you know, I couldn't have done it without my teammates, man, and Javi going out there and doing his thing, and Montero and Abreu, I mean, and all the guys behind us, you know, we're able to go do what we need to go do when they're out there.
You finally do get that last out, and history is made. Might not know it in the moment, but you're going to remember this one forever, huh?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we threw a no-hitter in the World Series.
That's so sick.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome.
Congrats, man.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Hey, congrats, man. How cool to see the smile on his face. It was just a part of a no-hitter in the World Series. And I think it all kind of hit him there in that moment because you're obviously all wrapped up in it. I was right over there next to him when he was taking the picture with Javier, Montero, Abreu himself, and the catcher, Vasquez. They were all taking the picture. Caught up with him immediately after that and asked him about a no-hitter, and his smile just said it all, I thought, which was so cool. I just threw a no-hitter in the World Series, so cool to hear from him there. The history here is something that I almost can't even fathom. This has happened so minimal. The only other no-hitter in World Series history was Don Larson, right? Don Larson in 1956.
Yeah.
God, that's unbelievable. And Jerry Koosman in 1969, the last pitcher to go 6+ hitless innings in the World Series. Because we all remember Jerry Koosman. Of course we do.
We're all around.
I just love it. I love history. We see this picture on the screen now of the 5 of them standing there, the 4 and the catcher. What a night here. This was cool, and to catch up with Presley was special.
Witnessing no-hitters, covering no-hitters, being a part of it is something that you remember for the rest of your lives. Were you ever part of a no-hitter?
Two different answers here. That's a great question. One, I threw one in high school.
Whoa.
Kind of cool.
Way to go, Ben.
Threw one. So that was the one I was a part of. I played in one as well. We had a pitcher in the Tigers organization throw one.
Okay.
That was combined as well. And then this year in Anaheim, I saw Reed Detmers throw a complete game no-hitter, and it was my first big league no-hitter I had ever seen in person.
Yeah.
And now I've seen 2 in 1 year, and it's in the World Series. So cool. What about you?
It's pretty magical. Mine also came with the Angels. My first time covering and witnessing one was Jared Weaver in 2012, and then I was a part of covering the 2019 combined no-hitter for the Angels, the game that they were honoring Tyler Skaggs, and all those crazy stats and the history that came out. Everyone was in tears. It's something that you remember for the rest of your life. I got to say, it's a little different when it's the home team that you're covering and the atmosphere. This is my first time seeing and covering one as the visiting team does it, and you just see the fans in complete shock. I mean, this was the quietest I've ever seen this stadium throughout this playoff experience. But again, congratulations to the Astros. That was unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So just to clarify, you weren't at my high school no-hitter against the
definitely
Amelia
wasn't there.
Stockings? You weren't there? Okay. I thought maybe that would have been your first one you experienced, but I guess not.
Okay, before we move off the no-hitter conversation, because this is something, it's a huge superstition. Are you on the side of you can talk about the no-hitter while it's happening?
No. What do you mean? Are you kidding me? Do you know me? No, you can't talk about it. You can't mention it.
Okay.
You can't even breathe about it. Don't even think about it.
All right.
And there are a couple of rules here. I'm glad you brought this up because in the stands tonight, all the Phillies fans were saying no hitter, no hitter, no hitter.
Yeah.
And then they'd laugh like, oh, I'm just trying to jinx it. No, no, no. Also part of the rule, if you're a fan of the team that is getting no hit, you can't jinx it by trying to jinx it intentionally. That's also part of this.
See, every time a no-hitter is going on, the first thing that pops in my mind is Doc Ellis. Are you familiar with the story? Who threw a no-hitter when he was on acid, and he told this whole story, and there's a video of it on YouTube, and he's explaining it, talking back about it, and he said there was this rookie on his team, just every inning would go, you got a no-no, you got a no-no, and whispered it in his ear. So every time a no-hitter's coming and happening during a game, I just, in my head and out loud, go, you got a no-no going. You got to know.
You're right. So the only time the jinx doesn't work is when somebody's on acid. Okay. So, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the Astros bats because they were hitting the ball well tonight, but really nothing to show for it until that 5th inning.
Yeah, nothing to show for it on the scoreboard except at one point I looked up and the Astros had 7 hits and not a single run scored.
Yep.
So it was interesting tonight. Every single player on the team, 8 of the 9, Ledmus Diaz is the only one that didn't, had a hit tonight, which contrast that to last game when they hardly had any hits and they didn't score any runs. This is quite the different ball game tonight for the Astros, and there was an approach about it that you could see. They weren't getting too big with their swings. They were staying contained. They were working pitchers. They were taking their singles. They were taking their doubles. Obviously, most of these were singles. They loaded the bases that one inning on multiple singles. but the big blow came on that Alex Bregman double. So you can't point to just one player tonight and say, man, how huge was he? If there was one, maybe it's Bregman, but it was really everybody in this Houston Astros lineup after a game where they weren't very good.
Yeah.
They all looked in the mirror, stepped up, and came out to play tonight. And I think that speaks volumes about their experience in the World Series. And I keep going back to that because I think it's monumental here. I think the experience that they've had over the last 6 years playing in these high elevation games and these huge momentous games is the reason that they're able to bounce back like that. Because how easy is it to get shut out in a World Series? You go down 2-1, you have 2 more games on the road. There's a chance you don't go back home and the series is done and you just lay an egg. This team didn't do that tonight. They really showed me something, and it was really everybody in the lineup.
They got production from the entire lineup, and this is the third time they've been down 2-1 in a World Series. So as you mentioned, when you have the experience, you've been here before, you don't panic. I think we talked about it in the pregame show. We both kind of knew they were going to have a bounce-back game in some way, shape, or form with the bats. The no-hitter was the absolutely crazy, complete surprise, making history.
We didn't predict that one.
We did not predict that one, but you had a chance to talk to Peña, another big bat.
Well, this was interesting because I was so impressed with their approach tonight, and it was just way different than I had seen from them in the past few games, which seemed to be the team that was hitting the long ball more was winning the game. And tonight, nobody was hitting the long ball, but the Astros were getting so many singles and working the count. So when I caught up with Jeremy Peña, we talked obviously about the no-hitter, but also the team's approach at the plate. Let's check out Jeremy Peña now. Here with Jeremy Peña after a historic win. That was sick. First off, congrats on the win. Tonight, after not scoring any runs last night, does the approach change at all today?
Man, that just says a lot about our team. You know, last night was tough for us, and we just bounced back today, you know, and it was special. These guys dominated on the mound like they've done all year, and it was fun to watch.
Was there any change of approach for the team, any conversation? Because there were no homers. It was just singles, doubles them to death to get the job done like you guys did tonight.
I think that's when we're our best, you know, when we just pass the baton to the next guy, you know, try to put together good at-bats, and just hand it off to the next guy, and that's what we did tonight.
How important was it for you guys down 2-1 in this hostile environment to get that first win here in Philly and tie up the series?
I mean, it's huge. It's huge for us, and we know there's still a lot of work to be done, but we're going to show up tomorrow and be ready to go.
No-hitter, that was sick. How cool is it to be a part of that?
I mean, that's awesome, you know, and both times that we've done it this year, Javier was on the mound, and, you know, that guy just disgusting.
Unbelievable. What, he throws invisibles? Have you ever faced him?
I've never faced him, but from shortstop, that's what it looks like.
Series is officially going to go back to Houston. How pumped are you?
I mean, we're at our best when we have our fans. You know, their support. They've supported us all year. And, yeah, we're going to try to finish it out.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
I can't get over Peña's composure. He's a rookie in the World Series. And just watching him play, hearing him talk about the game, hearing him give credit to Javier, and then in the moment, the other one we did was with Javier on the mound as well. Just a stud that has all the composure in the world. He was built for this moment.
He was, who also got his gold glove yesterday. So he's had quite a World Series. But now we got to talk about the Phillies and the man who was on the mound to start the game, Aaron Nola, who failed to deliver again. However, he wasn't pitching that bad, but once again did not make it out of the 5th inning. They pulled him with no outs, bases loaded. Was this the right call?
You know, first off, I think Aaron Nola threw the ball well tonight.
Yeah.
I think he threw really well. And you look up at one point and he got himself into trouble in that 5th inning when they scored all the runs. The bases get loaded. They pull him out. You know, I do believe that it was the right call, but I don't think that takes away from what Nola did tonight. This is a World Series game. If the Phillies had any runs on the board, we're giving him a standing ovation walking off the field, but the game was just different because he came out with the bases loaded. But I was super impressed. He had guys off balance. He was looking really good. He was throwing hard. In the regular season, Aaron Nola had 35 pitches of 95-plus miles an hour in the regular season.
Okay.
He's done it 16 times already in the postseason. 6 more tonight. I mean, it's really impressive what Aaron Nola is doing. So, yeah, I think when you look at the box score and you open up the newspaper in the morning, if anybody reads those anymore, you open it up and you see Aaron Nola, not a great start, ended up giving up a few runs, 3 earned, not great. I actually would disagree with that. I was really impressed with what he did, and then he came out of the game and all of his runs got cashed in.
See, I think you got to give a guy, a starter, especially someone who came in as your number 1. This is his 2nd time facing the Astros this series. You got to give him a chance to get out of trouble. There were no outs. There were no runs. He loaded the bases. You got to give him a shot to try to get out of it.
The thing I would say there, Alex, is that throwing 70 pitches or whatever he had in the World Series is like throwing 120 pitches in the regular season. So every single pitch you're throwing is so high octane, so high pressure, so on your arm. And I've heard this from Justin many times, is that's why you don't see guys going super deep very often in a postseason game, because you're just drained. Every single pitch you're throwing means something, and you're putting your effort into every single pitch, so it is difficult. So he gets to 70 pitches, and I actually thought in the moment Rob Thompson made the right call. You know, your guy clearly wasn't looking great that inning. He was looking a little bit off. Go out and get your guy, bring in your reliever that you bring in many times in high leverage situations, and unfortunately it didn't pay off. But one thing I do want to bring up is I've talked about the experience of the Astros a lot and how they've been here so many times. One thing I've started to notice here, and I talked about it a little bit with Zach Wheeler recently, and how I think he might start, his arm might be dragging a little bit these days, and that's why he's still pitching in Game 6. That's why he pitched in Game 2. These Phillies pitchers, they haven't ever pitched this deep into a season. Never. And the Astros have, and let's look at the last few outings. Zach Wheeler, in his last outing, the last inning, he was throwing 93 miles an hour. That stat I told you about Aaron Nola hitting 95 6+ times tonight, not a single one of them came in the 3rd inning and beyond. So I think these 2 studs of the Philadelphia Phillies are maybe just a little like, I've never pitched this late into a season in my entire life. This is the most I have ever pitched in my lifetime, whereas these Astros pitchers, they were here last year. Framber Valdez was pitching in the World Series last year. Justin's done it multiple times. Lance McCullers has done it multiple times. That experience in the playoffs pays off in so many ways, and I'm starting to think this pitching rotation for the Phillies is feeling it a little bit, and you start seeing it when they get deeper and deeper into starts, which is telltale sign number 1.
Which is really interesting and leading us to our next point of Alvarado's struggles. Coming in with bases loaded, no outs, and he hits Jordan. When you see something like that, your first pitch, you hit a batter, and you bring in a run, does that go to the lack of experience and the nerves of pitching in a World Series game?
Yeah, and I think you always want to come in with a clean inning if you're a reliever, right? You never want to come in with, oh, man. I mean, you talk about it in the backyard, like, oh, man, the World Series, bases are loaded, I'm coming in. You'd rather it not be the bases loaded part, and he comes in. He's a guy, look, he has been dominant his last 4 outings in the playoffs. He hasn't given up a run. He has been dominant, but there are control issues with Alvarado, and I learned that firsthand back when I faced him in the minor leagues. I had to bunt off of the guy, and it was an absolute nightmare because he was throwing 100-mile-an-hour sinkers with no idea where it was going at the time. He's since figured that out. But he's one of their better relievers, which is why I totally agreed with the decision. Okay, yeah, Nola's been good, but I think you picked the right time. And maybe Rob Thompson noticed is what I was talking about a little bit with his 2 studs, maybe not having it as much as they did during the regular season. You bring in Alvarado, and he just happened to have one of those nights where he didn't have his best stuff. And we've seen it before from him. Sometimes that command can waver a little bit, and we saw it here tonight with the very first pitch he threw.
Yeah, that also looked painful. Have you ever been hit by a 99-mile-per-hour fastball?
This is quite the story.
Yeah.
I one time in the minor leagues go up to the plate, right? I had the bases loaded as well when this happened, but I'm walking up to the plate. They bring in a new pitcher. I had faced this guy many times. We were in the same division. He comes in. I see the bullpen gates open, and I'm like, of course this guy's coming in. He's a guy that throws from like a 3/4 arm slot. He throws 101 miles an hour. He comes into the game. I get up there, the first pitch, take it on the outside corner. I look up, and it's 100, and I'm like, okay, great. Next pitch, I know it's an 0-1 pitch. I had a feeling I knew he was coming back with a fastball inside. He did. It was very inside. It hit me in the ribs. I look up at the scoreboard. It's 101. I got hit in the ribs. But the best part of this, or worst part of this, is I still have a torn left labrum from diving for a ball in the outfield, and it would often pop out. So I went to get out of the way of this pitch by, like, trying to throw my body out of the way. I couldn't do that. I got hit in the ribs with 101, and my shoulder popped out all at the same time. So I'm going down to first base holding my shoulder while also getting hit in the ribs, and it was just one of the worst moments of my life.
Did you break a rib?
No, I didn't break a rib, but back to your original question. Getting hit with 99 miles an hour is not fun, and you feel it for a long, long time, and I almost broke a rib and tore my shoulder even more.
Oh. That sounds painful. But I think that moment of Jordan getting hit by a pitch and a runner coming in to score the first run for the Astros was the game changer in this stadium, and that's when the atmosphere changed. That's when everybody went quiet. It was weird.
It was weird.
It was weird.
It made it even more weird. The Phillies bullpen has been so dominant. Their bullpen had opened this World Series with the longest scoreless streak by any bullpen since the 1992 Blue Jays.
Wow.
But that was a rough inning for Jose Alvarado tonight. 12 2/3 scoreless inning streak comes to an end tonight in a big way.
And I'm going to be honest, I didn't think there were many Astro fans here during this stretch in Philadelphia. You heard every single one of them here tonight.
Yeah, true. There were plenty of Astros fans here tonight. Two big sections, one being the family section over here, but a huge one out in the left field. There were a lot of Astros fans. One more point I want to make about Alvarado is I thought he made that one bad pitch. I thought that pitch to Jordan obviously was just a nightmare of a outcome if you're him coming in the game. I thought Alex Bregman had the at-bat of the night.
He did.
Alvarado was disgusting, throwing 100, sinking out of the zone, nasty sliders down. I give credit to Alex Bregman for that inning. I thought that hit down the right field line, scoring all the runs, is what changed this game, what opened it up, and what he called ball game. So I give a lot of credit to him there. Alvarado's disgusting, obviously not the outcome he was hoping for, but I still thought he made some good pitches, and the Astros just did some damage to him.
Yeah, that fifth inning was the turning point in this game. Obviously, with the cherry on top, the no-hitter completing combined in the ninth. But it's time to look ahead to Game 5 because we got your brother on the mound making his second outing of the World Series, but also looking for his first World Series win. How does he approach this game differently than Game 1?
This is what you live for, This is what you dream of. You have a series tied 2-2. You're in the World Series. You can pitch your team to a commanding lead in the World Series, going home for the last two. Look, I've been around him every single day since his last outing, and obviously it wasn't easy the night of Game 1. But that next day, he bounces right back. He's in the clubhouse preparing for this start. You're getting a Game 5 start as long as there's not a sweep, which I don't think anybody thought there was going to be a sweep on any direction here. You're going to get another start, and he's been ready, and he's been prepared, and he's eating up the opportunity to have this moment. But you're right. He doesn't have a World Series win, and I think that adds to his fire. If you know Justin, you'll know the fire that he has is unmatched. So he knows the narrative. He knows the record. He knows what's going on. He doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
He just wants to win. And he's been the best pitcher in baseball all year long with a sub 1.8 ERA. He's hopefully going to win the Cy Young Award, and now he can pitch his team to a 3-2 lead. And I will add, he needs to do that.
Yeah.
This game for the Astros is a must-win. You have a bullpen game on the other side for the Phillies. Noah Syndergaard on the mound for 2-3 innings, you hope, followed by this bullpen that was pretty taxed here tonight.
Yeah.
They didn't have to use a lot of their studs, but they use Alvarado. You're going to have to go to your bullpen early tomorrow, and the Houston Astros have their #1 stud on the mound that had the best year in baseball. You have to win that game tomorrow if you're the Astros, and I know Justin's going to come out fired up.
Yeah, this is a big defining game, I think, for both sides because Game 5 winners have gone on to win the World Series almost 71% of the time, which is a big deal. And then whoever wins is going into Houston with the lead.
And I think, the team that takes a 2-1 lead in the World Series has a 69% chance of winning the World Series.
Yeah.
So the team that takes a 3-2 lead, you have to believe it's 85% chance to win it all. So
Yeah.
the percentage you said just goes for any game 5, right? Not a 3-2 lead. That's you could be down you could be down 3-1 and win game 5, and it still plays into that statistic. So a team taking a 3-2 lead, going home for the last 2. I mean, the last time I can remember that not working out was the Houston Astros in 2019 against the Washington Nationals. That didn't work out very well, but that is still the outcome you very much so want. And Justin has the opportunity to do that tomorrow, and I would say it is a game that the Astros have to win. This is the game. If you could draw it up perfectly on paper, it's having your number 1 and a bullpen start on the other side. There are no excuses. You have to win the game tomorrow.
So this is lining up with that prediction for your World Series prediction.
Astros in 6.
That's what you
that
said.
was my
I
prediction.
said Phillies in 7. So
But both of us still have a very good chance
Both good
here.
work.
I mean,
Both good work.
Honestly, good work from both of us.
Yep.
We knew it'd go back to Houston.
Yep.
We were right there. So yeah, I am anxiously excited for tomorrow night.
That's a nice way to put it instead of all the nerves.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm excited to see you get all shook up again for your brother on the mound.
Boy. I will be, and I will also be showing you all my nerves tomorrow because Alex and I will be back with a pregame show back at Xfinity Live, which we saw this morning. So if you didn't watch, not this morning. Time is just a circle. It was not this morning. It was right before the game. And if you are not watching our pregame shows, just tune in. It's over at Xfinity Live, and it is madness over there. And we will also be back post-game immediately following the game, and we will bring it to you all, everything you need to know. Game 5 is tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern. The coverage starts, 8:03 first pitch. Justin Verlander, Noah Syndergaard on the mound. We're in for a doozy again tomorrow. I'm pumped up, and this has been quite the night.
This World Series has lived up to all of the hype. We have seen it all. We've seen a home run party. We saw a no-hitter tonight. What are we going to see tomorrow?
I do not know, but sometimes I just like to step back, take a moment to realize, hey, we're doing a show on the field after a no-hitter was thrown in the World Series, and we immediately get to go live and share it with all of our friends, and I think that's pretty cool.
It's pretty radical.
Great word.
Thanks.
So let's do it again tomorrow. Thank you all for listening. I hope you all are enjoying everything Alex and I are bringing. We're doing our best to bring you everything we are experiencing along the way. That's our goal here, and I hope you all are loving it. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, pregame and postgame show. Make sure you listen to and subscribe to Flippin' Bats wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow along on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And you can watch every single episode on YouTube as well, at Flippin' Bats Pod for all of them. But Game 4 was a historic one. The Astros throw a no-hitter, and this does it for today's episode of Flippin' Bats, presented by Perry Ellis Fragrances. Until tomorrow, peace.
See ya.